This week, the Synod of Bishops takes on hot-button issues affecting the family, the Pope excommunicates the Mafia, and we wrap up our series about women in the Church. Hello and welcome to this edition of Vatican Connections, our last edition for this season. Now, the working document for the Extraordinary Synod of Bishops was released this week. One of the things highlighted in the document is the need to improve priests' ability to deal with tricky pastoral situations. That includes formulating pastoral guidelines for those situations. The document was created after the bishops' conferences around the world filled out a questionnaire that was issued from the Synod of Bishops. According to this document released this week, the responses from around the world show that there are big differences in how much people know about church teaching on family and marriage issues, depending on the local culture and even how vibrant and engaging their local parish is. The resulting document deals with everything from marriage preparation to catechesis to natural family planning, divorce and annulments, and teaching the faith to children of same-sex unions. The Synod of Bishops will use this document as the basis for their discussions in October, and of course, we'll have full coverage of that synod. One of the age-old problems that plagues Italy is organized crime, the mafia in all of its forms. While visiting the Diocese of Casale allo Ionio, a place where the mafia is no stranger, Pope Francis gave a powerful homily during which he spoke about the two key aspects of the people of God. He said they are a people that adores God and a people that walks. Now, he linked that to the issue of the mafia. And here's what he said.
Quando all'adorazione del Signore si sostituisce l'adorazione del denaro, si apre la strada al peccato, all'interesse personale e alla sopraffazione. Quando non si adora Dio, il Signore, si diventa adoratori del male, come lo sono coloro i quali vivono di malaffare e di violenza. La vostra terra, tanto bella, conosce i segni e le conseguenze di questo peccato. L''ndrangheta è questo: adorazione del male e disprezzo del bene comune. Questo male va combattuto, va allontanato. Bisogna dirgli di no. La Chiesa, che so tanto impegnata nell'educare le coscienze, deve sempre di più spendersi perché il bene possa prevalere. Ce lo chiediamo ai nostri ragazzi, ce lo chiedono i nostri ragazzi, ce lo domandano i nostri giovani, bisognosi di speranza. Per poter rispondere a queste esigenze, la fede ci può aiutare. Coloro che nella loro vita hanno questa strada di male, come sono i mafiosi, non sono in comunione con Dio, sono scomunicati.
His homily was hailed as the first time that a church official has said members of the mafia are not in communion with the church, something very disturbing for mafiosi who often take on key roles within their local parishes, even if only for the prestige. Some Italian media have already hailed it the end of the era of mafia bosses leading church processions. Church teaching cannot be held to popular vote, but the hierarchy must take into account the reaction and opinion of the faithful, says the Vatican. Now, this was published in a document by the International Theological Commission. It was called Sensus Fidei in the Life of the Church and was published on the Vatican website with the approval of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. The Commission studied the issue of sensus fidei and sensus fidelium, which are basically the consensus of the faithful. These two things are defined as the capacity of the believer to discern the truth. And the Commission says if a particular teaching meets with great resistance or pushback, the hierarchy needs to take that as a cue to reflect further on that teaching and ask, does it need clarification or does it need reformulation? That, however, doesn't let the faithful off the hook. They also need to reflect on a particular teaching that they have trouble with and figure out why it's problematic for them. The Commission also rejects the idea that the faithful must blindly accept everything the Pope and the bishops teach, saying the faithful must understand the basis for any given teaching. Bishop Fulton Sheen is closer to sainthood. A theological panel has approved a miracle attributed to Bishop Sheen. A medical panel signed off on the miracle earlier this year, and you might recall that the miracle involved a baby who was stillborn. Doctors tried to revive him for 60 minutes to no avail, and at 61 minutes, doctors were about to pronounce him dead when he let out a cry. The medical panel agreed there was no medical explanation for this. Now the only thing missing is Pope Francis's approval, and once that happens, Bishop Sheen can be beatified. There was another twist in the story of the Legionaries of Christ this week. In a video posted on the Legionaries' website, the Superior General, Father Robles Gil, revealed that during the recent General Chapter, the new General Council was told by the Congregation for Religious Life that the Vatican will appoint someone to, quote, accompany the order. Since then, Father Robles Gil said he has been told that this person will not have direct governance over the order, but will walk with the order and generally advise on canonical and theological issues as they try to move past the legacy of their founder. The Vatican released a statement saying the Congregation for Religious Life will be meeting with the Legionaries' General Council on July 3rd to discuss some changes to their new statutes and release the name of this new assistant. The assistant will not be able to vote on internal Legion matters. We're wrapping up our look at the women of the Church by looking at women who take on roles that you might traditionally associate with men. Barb Dowding is the Vice-Chancellor for the Archdiocese of Vancouver. She's also the President-elect of the Catholic Women's League in Canada. And if that wasn't enough, she's a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. I spoke to her about balancing service to the Church with her family. So you are the Vice-Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Vancouver, the most picturesque archdiocese in the country, I have to say. I think a lot of people don't know what that means. They've heard the term Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor. They don't know what that means, and they're probably very surprised looking at this interview, looking at you saying, but that's a woman, shouldn't it be a priest?
Good point.
So if you could explain to our viewers, what does a Vice-Chancellor do?
Well, I think in my case, it might be different from a Vice-Chancellor somewhere else. But in the Archdiocese of Vancouver, I have the unique role of working directly with Archbishop Miller. And I am his basically events coordinator. And if you know Archbishop Miller, he has a lot of events. So that's a really special part of the role and the part I really like. But the Chancellor part in the Chancery office is really administrative. A lot of working with support staff, taking care of business in a way, and that type of thing. So in our case, the Chancellor, Father Bruce McAllister, is a canon lawyer, and he does the marriage things, all the things that you need a degree to do. As Vice-Chancellor, you can just be anybody like me off the street. You don't have to have a degree, and I don't. But I think what I bring to that job is life experience. So for me, the Vice-Chancellor's role is it's just a unique opportunity to serve in the Archbishop's office.
And you're also a part of this kind of inner circle that advises the Archbishop. Tell us a little bit about that.
In our case, yes, every Tuesday we have what we call the Archbishop's Council, and that's a meeting with the Archbishop around a table, boardroom, with the other vicars. They're all priests except for 2 lay people and myself, the only woman. And it's really about the business of the diocese. And so we cover everything that goes on, and we meet weekly, so you can imagine how much work is done. And the topics range from how much people have to pay to rent a hall and should they charge the Archdiocese to some really heavy-duty topics. So what happens there is a very free-flowing dialogue. You can say what you think. There's no problem that you're a woman and you might say the wrong thing. In fact, I think it's a really good thing for me to be there, bringing a different perspective. I'm very fortunate that Archbishop Miller and the other priests around the table appreciate the difference between men and women. They do.
They don't always understand it, but they appreciate
it.
They
do. They appreciate.
So how did you get to this position? What was the journey that brought you here?
Well, it goes back a long way, but to kind of jump in after, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and then I went back to work in a school, a high school, and I was asked by a Monsignor if I'd like to work downtown in the marriage tribunal. And I'm going, oh wow, I don't know, what does that mean? So which is my thing, I said, yes, I'll try. So I spent 3 years in the marriage tribunal, which was a very rewarding job where you really did help people, a lot of people, through marriage problems. And then Archbishop Exner at the time came to me and asked me if I would direct the Archdiocesan Synod, as well as the 3 years leading up to the Great Jubilee. So I had this dual role as coordinator of the Great Jubilee and the Archdiocesan Synod. And so that's really where my sort of entry into the chancery life began.
So it's really, in a very Marian way, really just saying yes,
yes
to everything
yes,
you were asked
yes.
and just
hoping for the best, which you do. I mean, you know, I think when someone asks you to do something like that, they believe that you can do it. I often don't believe, but I kind of try hard to honor that request, and that's sort of how I am, I guess you could say. But it's been a great, rewarding trip, I can tell you.
And then you're also, on top of all of this, you're also the president-elect nationally for the CWL, and you've served the CWL at the provincial level and the regional level. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Again, that's one of those things that at parish level I was a member like many women, did little jobs here and there, and one day someone said to me, I think you should be president of our council. We don't have anyone else. And I'm going, oh well, don't have anyone else, I guess I will. So I did. And my journey up through the different levels was not always that there was no one else, but people don't step up easily. And so I would say, okay, well, I will, and if you think I can, I'll try. And so I've been really lucky. I've had wonderful mentors, women who push hard and affirm. And I think that's a message that all women need to hear, is you need not only to be pushed and affirmed, but you have to do it back. Because I can blame those 2 people that I know really well for this happening to me, because they believed in me when I didn't. And that's a huge message for all of us.
So turning now to Pope Francis, he has said recently several times that he's very happy to see women sharing pastoral duties in some cases with priests and parishes when appropriate, but also that he wants to see a greater space for women, and he wants that space to be made so that women can have a more incisive and capillary role. And I've been asking all the women I come across, what does that look like to you?
Well, I think that looks like Pope Francis is saying the right things, but he hasn't figured out how it's going to happen. It seems that way. And I think for women, we need to take that and go through that door that he's opened. So I think we talked before about women being given positions as a token, you know, the token woman on a committee or that type of thing. So if you find yourself the token woman on a committee, then seize that and make it an opportunity to show what a woman can do. I think we have to not push our way, but take advantage of those times when we can actually step up and step out. We have to do it ourselves. I don't think Pope Francis is going to go, well, maybe we should do, he's not, you know, that's not his role. It's our role, I think, to kind of take it.
Okay, and that's very interesting, because Pope Francis did say that we need to move beyond making lists of what women can and can't do. These are the jobs you can do, these are the jobs you can't do. Turning to another aspect, we're very used to seeing women who are religious in religious communities, or single women who have devoted their whole lives to the church. And there's a lot more challenges for a woman who simultaneously wants to serve the church using her gifts and her talents, but also have a family. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like for you, and how did you reconcile those things? How did you find balance? How did you find time?
Well, you can find time for anything that you really want to do. We all know that. I think because I started out I was quite young. I was a young mom, had 3 little kids, and we had this weekly thing called Stitch and Coffee. We called it Stitch and Something Else. And that's when I met a lot of other mothers like myself, and most of them were stay-at-home or part-time working moms. And so we made that time during the day. But then as the kids went to school, I just started going to the meetings once a month at night, and I liked it. I liked the friendship, I liked the spirituality, and so I made time to go. And it wasn't really until quite a few years later that I actually said yes, I would take, well, I was secretary always, because I always take notes, so it was easy. But to be president was a bigger commitment. And again, I said yes, because they didn't have anybody else. And that could be the story of my life, I suppose. And then from there, as I went into the diocese and the province, it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't like you were on the road all the time. It was just parish stuff, or maybe a diocesan thing. So it wasn't cumbersome, and because I wanted to do it. And the kids were in school. I have a wonderful, supportive husband, and that I know I couldn't do it without him. He's there, and he knows it means a lot to me, and so that's good for him, or good for him to allow me to do that. So the juggling is really with work, with family, and now I have grandchildren too, and it's hard to fit time for them, but they have their lives too, so you can't just sit there waiting for them to want you to be there. So I think it's important to have your own life, your own interests, that it feeds you back. You get from that, and the whole part about the CWL for me is the spiritual journey, and that's what you go back to that, and that's the roots. So I think that's why you can do it, because you're not really doing it for yourself.
You're getting so much more.
Yeah, I think so.
Back
yeah, I think so.
So just to wrap everything up, my last question for you, what advice do you have for other women out there feeling like they have gifts and talents that they know they would like to share with their parish community or their diocesan community, wanting to serve somehow? What advice do you have?
I think they should explore all the options in their parish. They should get to know other women of their similar age and background. If they don't already belong to the Catholic Women's League of Canada, they should think about joining. Because I think for all women, especially going forward, we need women to realize that they have so much to offer. They have unlimited potential. That's what Francis says too, that's his words. That they're missing out, not on serving others, they're missing out on what they would get if they were able to tap into those gifts and have someone, I don't know, recognize it in them and help them blossom. I mean, I feel like, not that I think I'm a flower, but I feel like I've blossomed because of taking those chances and allowing people to talk me into doing something that's a little hard, a little scary.
Being pushed just
Being
a little
pushed,
bit beyond your
push.
limits.
Yeah, not too big.
Let's take a look now at what Pope Francis has been doing this week. Last Sunday, he visited Casale allo Ionio to ask forgiveness for naming the bishop Secretary General of the Italian Bishops' Conference. He visited a prison, a local parish, where the pastor had been killed, actually, and of course he celebrated Mass, during which he said in his homily that members of the Mafia are not in communion with God. On Monday, he met with the leadership of the Spanish Bishops' Conference. Although it is customary for heads of bishop conferences to visit the Vatican once a year, this visit drew some attention because it is believed the bishops may have been discussing the possibility of Pope Francis visiting Avila for the 500th anniversary of Saint Therese of Avila's birth. There has been no official statement about whether or not the Pope would make such a trip, but hope springs eternal in the Spanish Church. Wednesday was the general audience. Pope Francis spoke about being a do-it-yourself Christian. Catholic News Service has more.
Nella Chiesa non esiste il fai da te, non esistono battitori liberi. Quante volte Papa Benedetto ha descritto la Chiesa come un noi ecclesiale. Talvolta capita di sentire qualcuno dire io credo in Dio, credo in Gesù, ma la Chiesa non mi interessa. Quante volte abbiamo sentito questo? Questo non va. C'è chi ritiene di poter avere un rapporto personale, diretto, immediato con Gesù Cristo, al di fuori della comunione e della meditazione della Chiesa. Sono tentazioni pericolose, sono tentazioni dannose, sono, come diceva il grande Paolo VI, dicotomie assurde. È vero che camminare insieme è impegnativo e a volte può risultare faticoso. Può succedere che qualche fratello o qualche sorella ci faccia problema o ci dia scandalo, ma il Signore ha affidato il suo messaggio di salvezza a delle persone umane, a tutti noi, a dei testimoni ed è nei nostri fratelli e nelle nostre sorelle con il loro dono e il loro limite che ci viene incontro e ci fa riconoscere. E questo significa appartenere alla Chiesa. Ricordatevi bene, essere cristiano significa appartenenza alla Chiesa. Il nome è cristiano, il cognome è appartenenza alla Chiesa.
On Friday, Pope Francis was scheduled to visit the Gemelli Polyclinic Hospital, and on Monday he was scheduled to meet King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain. This would be their first foreign trip after taking the throne. There are some people with new jobs this week. Let's take a look and see who they are. The Pontifical Theological Academy has a new president. His name is Father Réal Tremblay. He is a professor emeritus of fundamental moral theology. He used to teach at Rome's Accademia Alfonsiana. He was also, up until this appointment, a regular member of the Pontifical Theological Academy. And Pope Francis has restructured several dioceses in Brazil. First, he suppressed the Diocese of Guaratinga and divided the territory among neighboring dioceses. Then Pope Francis created a new diocese called Primavera do Leste. The new bishop of Primavera do Leste will be an Irish prelate, Bishop Derek Byrne. Now, he's originally from Dublin and a member of the Missionary Society of St. Patrick. Until now, he was bishop of the Brazilian Diocese of Guaratinga. Well, that's it for Vatican Connections this season. We'll be back in the fall with more about what's happening at the heart of the Church and what it means. Until then, follow us on Twitter or Facebook, or check our blog for regular updates throughout the summer. From everyone here, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the fall.